to the inspirational figure of Arthur Griffith, philosopher of a sturdy, generous, self-reliant Irish nationalism, leader of the treaty delegation, first president of a free Ireland. And its roots went back to the Rising of 1916, in which so many of its leaders and members had participated. Its roots, too, in Sinn Féin and the War of Independence. Michael Collins had crippled the British military and administrative machine. Richard Mulcahy, a military leader of courage and brilliance. W.T. Cosgrave, whose Department of Local Government had brought British rule to a halt. The immediate roots of the party are to be found in the treaty negotiations. The treaty, signed December 1921, ratified by Dáil Éireann, January 1922. The treaty, not the ultimate freedom, but the freedom to achieve freedom. The stepping stone towards a full, free, independent Ireland. The dramatic handover of power, the moment for which generations had waited. Political independence now a reality as British troops leave for the last time. The tricolour floats proudly as a symbol of a new statehood. General Michael Collins, embodying a country ready and impatient to take up the challenges and possibilities of independence. The mood of hope and the verdict of the people was not enough to prevent civil war, bitterness and carnage. Physical and emotional scars on the infant state. Heavy loss of life on both sides. Most of all, the deaths of the two great architects of Irish independence. Arthur Griffith, worn out with effort and anguish, August 1922. Then, 10 days later...
Well, I heard a voice calling me. And I jumped up, and at that stage, O'Connell had come up the road to me. And he said, "Where's the big fellow?" So I said, "He's round the corner, around the bend." And we both went up there, and he had been shot. He was lying there with a very gaping wound in the back of his head. Personally, I was holding the body of the commander-in-chief in my arms. And the rest of the cortege was moving ahead as best they could. And it was a sad, sad journey.
No new state has ever suffered such devastating blows at its birth. But the memory of Collins and Griffith steeled the resolution of the new leaders. William T. Cosgrave, the unanimous political choice. The military command passing to Richard Mulcahy. From government buildings, the work begins. The cabinet, under sentence of death from their opponents, their families and property at risk. Cosgrave's own house was burned. Around him, Cosgrave had a team of talent, integrity, and courage. Kevin O'Higgins, Desmond Fitzgerald, Owen MacNeill, Ernest Blythe, Richard Mulcahy, Paddy McGilligan, Paddy Hogan. They were to develop the new state and the political party which gave it its meaning. Cumann na nGaedheal.
Cumann na nGaedheal was certainly a coalition party. It was a sort of a national front of people who had accepted the treaty. There was no great bond between people at one end of it and people at the other extreme. You had, on the one hand, you had Collins's friends, Dick Mulcahy, Ernest Blythe, Joe McGrath, people like this, who were as strongly Republican as anybody on De Valera's side, and some of them much more Gaelic Republican than the people around De Valera in Fianna Fáil. Yet they found themselves in alliance with, in the centre, if you like, the old Sinn Féiners of the Arthur Griffith variety, and W.T. Cosgrave probably belongs more to that than to the gunmen. Supported also on another bit to the right by the parliamentary party people.
The Civil War over, stability was restored to a bruised and war-weary country. The hard task of nation-building begins. The new unarmed Garda Síochána. A new constitution, secular, non-sectarian, innovative. The National Army, professional, non-political, loyal to the civil authority. Step by step, the new state was established. New ministries, finance, external affairs, defense, new structures, new men. To ensure that administration would be competent and honest, all appointments were placed in the hands of an independent civil service commission. Then followed the task of economic recovery. New agricultural measures, increasing output, raising the quality of produce and marketing. Under Paddy Hogan, Irish agriculture reached levels of real prosperity which were not to survive his departure from office. The great adventure of the Shannon scheme. Under Paddy McGilligan, the basis for the industrial transformation of the country was begun. The experts said it couldn't be done. He proved them wrong, showing both at home and abroad that an independent Irish government could undertake tasks which no previous administration had ever attempted. Likewise with the sugar factories. And so the work continued. Tough decisions were taken. The reasons weren't always understood, but by the end of the 1920s, the Irish Free State was efficient, solvent, and respected.
Some of the best achievements of the modern state are to be found in that particular period, in that decade. One would say, for instance, the whole ESB, the Shannon scheme. One might say the sugar factories that emerged at that period. And one could easily say the agricultural policy. Now, it may have been narrow, and it may have been based entirely on the cow and on the cattle business. But in fact, it was not until well into the late 1940s before our exports reached anything like they had reached by 1929 under that first administration.
Confident in its nationalism, secure in its identity, the government sought fair and friendly relations with Britain. Within the Commonwealth, McGilligan's brilliance helped realize the potential of the treaty. Helped by Kevin O'Higgins, Cosgrave, and Desmond Fitzgerald. Further afield, the Free State asserted its sovereignty as a full and constructive member of the League of Nations. Cosgrave was welcomed and acclaimed in the United States as the leader of a free Ireland. The revival of the Irish language was a priority. By inducement, by compulsion, and by planning, the government set about its task. The Southern Unionists, those with most to fear from independence, had their rights guaranteed, their representation ensured.